Hey, Clemson family, our position rankings for 2024 as we look ahead to the season are down to the three best groups on the team. And we are going to talk about the defensive tackles today, which I think has been a key to Clemson's defense for years now.
We are, and there's been some great ones. Can't wait to see what that group looks like this year. There's a lot of new there, and excited about that. And we're also going to look into the Hokies and see what we can expect from Virginia Tech coming up in 2024.
We'll talk turkey. He's Daniel Shirley. I'm Bill Zimmerman. Welcome to the Reign Supreme Alway podcast. Get in and comment at youtube.com/Clemson Kickoff. Let's get some more viewpoints out there, not just the two of us throwing things out there and giving our perspective and our analysis of things, but let us know what you think. There's definitely room for a lot of it. Also, Twitter at Clemson Kickoff. You can follow us there. When there's breaking news between episodes, we'll suss out what's best and most important and the freshest perspectives, and we'll get those in front of you. You can also find us at ClemsonKickoff.com. Our homepage seems to be, thank goodness, finally, all the people we're leaning on to make that happen for us are making the gears turn together. We were at a little bit of a standstill there for a little bit, but it's back up and running. You don't often expect your defensive tackles to do a ton of running, but I'll tell you what, this is year in and year out, a very athletic room, a very athletic group for the Tigers, big time difference makers. And in 2024, I don't expect that to be any different. And that's with expecting Peter Woods to play a lot of time at defensive end. I think that says a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of depth here, and you would think, yeah, this is going to be a really great group. And you think if you say that, you'd say, yeah, Peter Woods, right? Peter Woods makes a lot of sense. No, he's going to play a lot of defensive end. So I think you're going to see some new faces in this role. I can't wait, as a guy from who lives in Central Georgia, to see what Vic Burley can become, and we'll talk about him in a bit. But there is a lot of young talent in this defensive tackle group, and that's going to be a huge piece of what this defense can be in 2024.
Yeah, I love the young talent in this room. I also like the experience that is there. I think it's kind of a deceptively experienced group. Guys have been around for years and doing everything that they ought to be doing under Nick Eason, under Todd Bates, under Wes Goodwin, under Brent Venables. There's a lot of good coaching of this talent in the room. Yes, they've lost Tyler Davis. Yes, they've lost Ruka Rororo. Yes, Peter Woods is going to play at least some, if not a lot, at defensive end, depending on what's needed. So we're going to find out pretty quickly about these other guys who can come on board. And we've seen, like I said, a good bit of them leading up to now. One guy we haven't seen much of, hardly any of, is Vic Burley. He's just had the injury bug. Everyone says he is healthy now, coming out of the spring, ready to rock and roll. A distant cousin of the position group coach in Nick Eason. And like you said, a guy who you are familiar with coming out of Middle Georgia. He even got the notice of the folks in the big city and was an AJC Super 11 choice his senior year in high school.
Man, the talent is there, right? If he can just stay healthy. And Bill, I think he was going to play a lot last year. And then he got hurt, as we all know, in preseason camp, and was banged up some in the spring as well. So he just has to stay healthy, because the talent will blow you off the field once you see it. And I saw it a lot in high school when he was at Warner Robins. I went to several of his games here in Central Georgia at Warner Robins High School. So if you're a Clemson fan and he can stay healthy, you're going to be really, really excited about what you see.
He's got a couple of good examples for that path as well, for coming back from injury and really shining. And we will talk about those guys coming up. Another youngster, Stephen Green, flashed really nicely in the spring game. 6'4", 280. Sorry, I didn't give Burley's size. He's definitely a bigger guy, 6'4", 315. Green, again, you just have to wonder, is he ready to do that against a team like Georgia? Is he ready to do it against other ACC programs like Florida State? Or was that kind of a product of, a lesser group adjusting to a new coach in that Clemson offensive line? So we'll find out. But let's talk about Trey Williams this is the total opposite of Green. He's been in the room a long time. He's a senior, 6'2", 305. He's been around for several coaches. He was in that huge recruiting class that also saw Brian Brzee and Miles Murphy, who did very well right out of the gate. Williams, though, has suffered some injuries. since really showing a lot of talent. You've seen him just make some plays where he is absolutely a force. So that's his ceiling. He definitely is starter talent if he's healthy.
Yeah, again, health is a huge key, and you've seen it where you go, man, there's Trey Williams. That's what Trey Williams is. Let's see that all the time, but he's got to stay healthy and he's got to be more consistent with his effort and with his, with his, what he wants to get done as a player, right? And his drive and all those things. Dabo Swinney has talked about that a lot with him. Is I want to see some more consistency from him, and we'll see if this year's the case that he finally kind of puts it all together.
Yeah, we'll mention a couple of freshmen coming in real quick. Heaven Brown Schuler and Champ Thompson, a couple of North Georgia guys. Thompson enrolled early, so he's already been on campus. Brown Schuler got there this summer. We'll see where they weigh in and measure up. It's pretty obvious, though, that they are going to be distant depth unless there's a big surprise there. So let's get into Peter Woods also. I guess he's a depth guy, a defensive tackle. Really? Is that going to be an accurate thing to say? The 6'2", 315 sophomore might not check in at 315 by the time camp breaks, as he's going to be looking to play outside, help set the edge, help get after the passer. We will find out pretty quickly what situations are going to push him inside and what situations are going to keep him outside. That's what the coaches have hinted at.
Man, can you imagine him just being a piece of the puzzle, as good of a player as he is? I mean, you'd love to see him. I'd love to see what he can be at defensive tackle, full-time defensive tackle, because I think that's a scary proposition for the opposition. But he's going to be so needed on the outside, and he's so versatile on the outside that you just say, let's just use him wherever he fits the best. And I think for this group, he fits the best on the outside, but he's going to play all over the place. They're going to move him around and they're going to use him play by play, series by series, game by game. I think you're going to see them use him a lot of different ways.
Yeah, like you, I would really like to see him in a kind of a three-man rotation. Let him move back and forth, subbing in for Peyton Page, subbing in for Demonte Capehart, or them subbing for him, maybe as the case may be. Just a rare talent. He played across the line and at different spots in high school. High school coaches love to move a guy around like that and keep the other team guessing. So this won't be the first time for him. You've also had some of these coaches such as Wes Goodwin around when Christian Wilkins moved outside, then came back his junior year, moved back inside. There's going to be some experience that can be related there. The rock of this group, if you ask me, is Peyton Page, 6'4", 315 senior. Nice size, always been a solid performer, always kind of been in that, again, we don't like player comps, but a little bit of Tyler Davis, a little bit of Dexter Lawrence, maybe not that same level of height. What I mean by that is he's really good at owning his own space, and when the ball comes his way, he can shed a block and make a play seemingly out of nowhere, even though someone's right next to him. Sometimes you see a lot of teams with a defensive tackle who the ball is right near him and he can't make that play. Page is one of those guys who can step up and make something happen.
Page to Bill is right there to being a great player. He's been good when called upon, but now he's got to be good all the time. And these other guys have to watch him do the job and follow his lead. So he's the guy we talk a lot about guys growing into a leadership role. That's got to be him this year. This is a big time chance for him to really kind of show why he was such a big time recruit coming out of high school.
And then another big time high school recruit, Demonte Capehart, the other piece of that puzzle from that Trey Williams, Brian Brzee, Miles Murphy class, 6'5", 320 graduate student now. He finally got healthy last year, and the snaps he got were just basically beast mode. He had very electric big play capability at times. I think he's really got a chance to vault himself up the draft boards of some NFL franchises. He just has playmaker written all over him. He is more in that kind of Christian Wilkins, Brian Brzee, line him up inside, but kind of let him do what he needs to do. Let him sort of freelance in there and get after however he can get in the backfield and disrupt plays. This is a guy who is really capable of doing that from the middle.
Why can Peter Woods play on the outside? because of DeMonte Capehart.
Yep.
Right? If DeMonte Capehart's not on this roster, Peter Woods is on the inside. I really feel like that. And then you're just trying to figure out the defensive ends. But you've heard Dabo Swinney say it a lot the last few years with the offensive line, defensive line. We want the best 5 on offense. We want the best 4, whatever that is, on defense up front. And Peter Woods can play on the outside because you've got DeMonte Capehart and and Peyton Page. I love Capehart. I thought he took a huge step forward last year. There were a couple of games where you went, my goodness, he's unblockable. And he made a lot of big plays. So I think he showed last year what he can be as an NFL prospect. And I think you're going to see even more of that this year.
Yeah. I really do like Nick Eason's house right now. You can't call it a player room. There's too much size and too much strength in there. You got to make it a house, right? He has picked up right where his predecessors have left off, coaching the defensive tackles. He sets a really strong example in workouts. He shouldn't really need to, but he sure does that. He does everything he needs to do to earn the respect of that room. And I think to me personally, this is the best group on the team. I will say that it has a chance to be because, Daniel, I think you rightfully pointed out, we just have to find out how they cope with the loss of 3 really talented guys when you look at Peter Woods, but also Tyler Davis and Ruka Rororo.
Well, Rook is kind of the blueprint of what some of these guys can be. He's okay and he's pretty good, and then boom, he took on a bigger role, and that's what you want to see from Capehart and Page this year. I think Nick Eason is maybe the best defensive tackle coach in the country. If he's not, he's right there in the group. To have that label, he's a great recruiter. He's terrific when he gets his hands on these guys and coaches them up. I think he probably could be a head coach at some point down the line. He's got that personality. I love everything about Nick Eason, and I really like this group.
Tell us what you think. Is this the best group on the team? Does it deserve to be only in the top 3? YouTube.com/Clemson Kickoff. Let us know what you think. Let's try to fly through a Virginia Tech preview here real quick. They are, if I can share my screen, a team that a lot of people are really expecting to make waves in the ACC this year.
Yeah, the Hokies are a hot pick this year. I get it. They finished strong last year. Brent Pryde did a good job with last year's team. Feels like they are, I don't know if they're going to be back to being Virginia Tech with a capital VT, but it feels like at least they are headed in the right direction.
Yep, and they finished last year strong, which I think is going to end up being part of the reason they're a popular preseason pick. We'll take a look at how that schedule really looked. You've got defensive end Antoine Powell-Ryland at 6'3", 246, 9.5 sacks last year, so he is a leader with experience on that defense. And then behind him, you've got the leading tackler of Kelly Lawson. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. 6'4", 220. He's a junior, 80 tackles, 7 of them for loss with 6 pass breakups. And then you got Dorian Strong lending nice support in the secondary, a grad student at 6'0", 185. This is a program that has a lot of defensive reputation to uphold, and it seems to be getting back there.
Well, and this is a veteran group, Bill. I mean, each of those guys has played a lot of snaps. And I think that's the key for them. They've got one of those guys at each level. Now, we'll see if they have the depth to continue to take steps forward as a program. But they've got a leader, a clear leader in my mind, at each level. And that's a big start or big place to start for this team.
Right. And they have added some transfers, but a lot of the starters we're talking about who were transfers have already been in that program for a year, right, getting their sea legs under them there. And the transfers that came in this year look to be competing to get onto the 2 deep. I'm sure they will be allowed to compete for a starting job. And if they're better, they'll get it. But you have guys who have been there who you can turn to. Wide receiver, led by Jalen Lane last year. He's a grad student again, so nice experience once more, 5'10" and 192. And the offensive line that will be trying to buy time to get the ball to Lane has all 5 starters back from last year. Kind of like we talked about with Louisville, not a huge presence at running back, but Bashal Tootin is coming back, 5'11", 209. He is a senior. but he only had about 50 more yards rushing than the returning quarterback. And the big name on this team is that quarterback. It's Kyron Drones at 6'2", 234. He's a junior. He took over the starting job a few games into the season, finished with 2,000 yards, even without having the benefit of starting every game. 17 TDs against only 3 interceptions, which is certainly a very nice ratio to have. 818 rushing yards as well. He's a dual threat.
He is a dual threat, and he takes care of the ball, which is what they want to do, is take care of the ball. So, Bill, when you have a quarterback back who takes care of the ball, and you have all 5 starters back on your offensive line, you can see why people are high on the Hokies going into this season.
Absolutely. And then I think the question comes down to that finish to the schedule is one of the big reasons for optimism. But you're talking about the fact that they faced Wake Forest, Syracuse, Louisville, Boston College, NC State, and Virginia to get to that 5-1 finish. The loss was to Louisville. We will see what that turns into coming into the season. We will have more previews coming up for you as we roll toward opening night. Here we are in August. Football is this month, everybody, and it's awesome. YouTube.com/Clemson Kickoff for everything. I'm Bill.
I'm Daniel Shirley. Go Tigers.